So it is October 27th, 2025 when I'm filming this. This is the 88 Virago XV750. I finally bobbed it. I always said that they make pretty good bobbers. Pretty fun to do. Semi-easy, not too much involved. If you have a seat situation and a light situation, like a signal setup. I toyed with this idea a few years back, and I did a little bob to it on the tail at the end of 22 going into 23, and that video is on this channel. And I used a seat much like this. It's in the two shorts that I put up, the short video and the short, but this is actually a 13-inch seat I had to go up to because that other seat is just way too tiny even for short trips around town and around. And so basically I removed the fender, I put the bullet signals back on, relocated them. After cutting the frame, I relocated them to the fender holes on the sides there. Actually, the sissy bar holes. So these little bullets are going through the sissy bar holes, and you can see the cylinders that go through there. So they're just running through there. They were just happened to be long enough, and if they weren't, I would have just built brackets. And then, obviously I'm going fenderless. I do have a cut down fender off a Shadow that would work well on this bike for the style. And I still have my crossover on the front fork tubes to reinstall one of the other fenders or bob one of my other front fenders. I have multiple ones off a couple different years, so I could bob a fender and put it on the front if I really felt like it. I still got those Amazon pipes, straight pipes with the baffles. The baffles drilled out, so they're widened out, but they're still in there. You really do need the baffles. My ears do. I removed the speedo and the tack, and I cut the bracket, so I still need the bracket to mount the cluster to the bike through there. I tried it without it, but I really liked having the neutral light, the signals, the oil light, and the high beam light. It's good to have. And I'm just using my phone as a speedo right now, and I'm going to be getting a GPS digital speedometer and an odometer, and I'm going to be mounting it to the sidebar on the front of the bike. And I'll probably do a little cluster there eventually. They make little brackets, and it just takes a bit of work running your wires to it and figuring it out. It's part of the project that's always ongoing. And then I'll probably get rid of that cluster. So the bike was never a pretty bike when I got it. I bought it after I'd sold my Kawasaki Vulcan 900 LT. I put the money back into the house kind of thing and did some work to the house, and then I went a couple of years without a bike. And I felt guilty having something nice. So I found this, I think it was like $400 is what the deal was when he was getting rid of it. Running, riding, starting, stopping, everything worked on it, and it passed the safety. That's could be a whole other video. We could talk about that. But it was never nice. It was never pretty. It was always rough paint, rough clear coat, dinged up tank and body and such, and leaks and things like that out of the motor and the carbs, and just barely past the safety. And it was a baby bagger at the time. So basically this bike is always, and has always been a project for me, and will always be until it blows up. When it blows up, I'll sell everything off it. The rims, the tires, the shocks, the motor cases. I'll sell the tank. I'll sell the forks. I'll sell everything I can off of it and say goodbye to it. But will one day live on through other bikes. But this bike, basically, it allowed me to ride when I really didn't have the money to get something nice. But it got me on the road. And I rode it and commuted with it all in 22. And then I got my Kawasaki KLR 650 in the winter of 23, and that's why I originally bobbed it. But I still have deep feelings, rooted feelings for cruisers and the feeling you get for them. But I mean like a full bagged out cruiser with a comfy seat and bags, so you can kind of go far on in comfort. And my Kawasaki KLR 650 is not that comfortable. It's a good on gas, holds a lot of fuel. It's a good commuter bike. It's a bike you can drop and not worry about. It's not a pretty bike either. And it's got so much crash protection on it that it's protected if it falls over. But it's not a comfort bike either. It's a utility bike completely. And so this, I went back to being a baby bagger, and I'd ride it to work sometimes on the weekends when I'd already had my stuff in my locker. And I love this bike because it got me back on the road when I didn't really have the money for it. And then my insurance is cheap, so I'm not worried about that. And it's mechanical, very mechanical, so I fix it myself. Clearly, I do all this myself. So it's not the most comfortable bike, so I always knew that I was going to probably, when the means were there, pick up a more comfortable bagger, like touring bagger again one day, and make this into a bobber. And so I kind of felt like making this into a bobber prematurely, because I just kind of do everything on my Kawasaki, all my distance riding, my commuting to work. It has all the bags for my work gear and whatever. And I kind of was getting sick of the look of this bike, the retro look, the big fat ugly weird seat and stuff I don't like about 80s bikes. And I finally just decided it's time. I've been thinking about it and him and Han. I may as well do it and shit or get off the pot, and I did. So it's just a really fun town ripper. I can probably go like 45 minutes out of town and take a break on that seat. Thank God it's wider than the other one, but it's not a touring bike and it's not a distance bike, and it never was. It doesn't hold much fuel, and it doesn't have, you can't put the biggest, you can put bags on it all you want, but then you're stopping, or if you go too far and you can't find a gas station, you're in trouble. So I always had to carry extra gas since I bought it. And even now that it's running as most efficiently as we ever could get it running, with the valves set, carburetors balanced, I leaned it out, then I added a little bit more fuel mixture into it, because it was running really lean this summer. I did it a bit too much, but I love this bike, and even that love-hate relationship you get going for an old machine that's brittle and falling apart and ugly. And I love this machine, and I put a lot of time into it and work to it over the 4 seasons I've owned it, in 22, 23, 24, and 25. And I never gave up on it. And cruisers really are my favorite type of bike, because they're more of a casual feeling bike than, say, like an adventure bike, which is my KLR. But I will get a proper bagger one day, and for touring and comfort. And one day this thing's gonna crap the bed. She's gonna give up the ghost, so I'll be ready for that. But until then, I think this is my favorite configuration I've ever had it in, ever. Of all the baby bagger situations I made into, and when I bobbed it, this is my favorite configuration so far of how it looks, and it still feels great. It's kind of a rowdy little street bar brawler. Couple mechanical things I want to get into from my spring video when I took this thing up to the Renfrew County. I finally got the forks rebuilt so they're not leaking. I hate leaks so much, and on bikes they really are bad. My engine case was leaking. It's actually over tightened it, and I cracked one of the bottom holes. So this case is off a junkyard bike, and it's pretty marred here. And I realized I had to seal up in here where the grommets are, where all the wiring comes out. That's where my leak was coming from. It was getting all over my kickstand, center stand, tire. And it was becoming an issue, especially on a group ride where I was losing control. I wasn't really getting good traction. It was really wild. I couldn't believe it, but it happened, and I was slipping and sliding, and that's how bad it got. And I finally fixed it. Got that case put on. I got that case from the wrecking yard. I got it put on, and I did what I had to do. I hate leaks. I hate when things don't run right. When my Kawasaki KLR had a melted fender, I didn't like having the damaged fender. I don't mind things are dinged up, scratched up, and ugly and worn, and I don't mind when time shows itself on something, especially like this. But I don't like things when they're not correct and they're not proper. So when things are leaking and bleeding, and you need to fix that. And I've been able to, so as long as I can keep it running on a budget, this will always be a budget bobber and a budget cruiser for me. And I'm having a ball with it. So getting back to the build, it's been a long time coming. Ever since I've owned it, it's always been one of those things where I always fought. I love the feeling of the bike, but it's a little cramped. Doesn't hold a lot of gas. You want to put so many bags on it, and you can't really tour on a big bike, little bike like this, in comfort, the way I prefer to. So I went and bobber. So I cut the frame, put this seat on. I used my old mount from a couple years ago, and I had to cut that down too. And then I just used some spacers and it's on a piece of rubber, and it pivots there. Took off this peg, put a spacer in there for the exhaust. We are redoing this exhaust with the factory headers this winter. My friend really wants to build me an exhaust for this bike. He really likes this bike. So I said, sure, go for it. That horn might be getting replaced. We'll see if the Amazon one coming in is any good. If not, we're leaving it, and I'll chase the wires on the one that's not working. Those wires there for the other horn, there's a ghost in them somewhere. I'm going to find them in the winter. This bracket down here that holds the clutch cable, it goes in the case. I found one in the wrecking yard from the other case, so I just bolted it to where that horn went to hold down my clutch cable. And there's really not a lot else going on. I removed the peg, I made a little bracket right there for the rectifier, but it's really, really hot. So I'm thinking about putting the bracket back on without the peg, painting it black. And we'll see if the aluminum, I think, dissipates heat a little bit easier than steel. So I made a little steel bracket, and you'll also notice I removed the center stand, but I still have it for winter storage. But I made this little bracket here, but it's really hot, and I'm not sure if that is the rectifier itself, or if it's just that steel doesn't dissipate heat as fast and cool as fast as the aluminum. So I'm about to go find out. I'm going to put the other bracket back on. If it works, that's great. I'll test it out, and I will just paint it up and leave it on and call it good. And then I left the engine guard on there. I know a lot of people like to strip these right down. I like the engine guard. It serves a purpose, and it has those forward pegs just to rest my legs on, to stretch them out, because it's a tight bike. Once again, it's a tight bike. It's not a long bike. It's like a Sportster. It's a 7 foot, not an 8 foot bike like a light tourer. So from tire to tire, it's 7 feet. So I like having that. It just gives me a little bit of relief on this bike. And then I'll always be the little doodad things I want to do to it. The dash, the gauges, things like that. Things will always be getting messed around with until she blows up. But I'm really happy with the way it turned out, the way it looks, the way those bars work on it, and the way the seat worked out. No springs on the seat. It rides hard. I'm on setting 2, and I'm thinking about going out on setting 1. But this is it. This has been my 4-year adventure with this bike. A little history on it, a little bit of my feelings towards it. I've done a lot of things to it mechanically, and it's always going to need a little bit of this and that. She's old and brittle. And until the day she blows up, once that motor blows, that's when I'll part it out. But until then, I'll just keep ripping around town with it and having fun with it. And yeah, like I'm messing around with things like that, single mirror and just little difference, things on it. I got the little side bag. That's like a leg bag right on there. There's my gas can in there and my little gas bottle. I got a rubber mount for the kickstand, which I'm not using. Glasses can go in there. I got my fuel stabilizer. So yeah, so there it is. That's my build. I'll give it a quick start up and see if the rectifier's rotted out of it or blown out of it. But let's just see here. Oh yeah. And on that note, I think I'm going to get it home, and I'll put this video up, and any questions or comments, feel free. Hope you enjoy the videos.